That begs the question, can gym owners charge high ticket pricing? It's a risk to put that price point up in a small community and here no. Semi-private do, in my opinion, have the capacity to charge way more.
I think, well, actually, firstly, I think you're completely right.
What truly separates somebody from a low quality, small group semi-private studio to a facility that's doing, north of 750K to over $1 million?
So from a vision perspective, I think...
Guys, I am delighted to present to you Ollie Marchon of Marchon Gyms.
We hadn't done any sort of paid strategy, whether online or in our gyms, and I particularly didn't want to do those type of ads. For me, it was very American. You think that the cool picture of someone hitting this deadlift with the fancy lights of your gym, it just wasn't working.
Guys, I am delighted to present to you Ollie Marchon of Marchon Gyms, online mentorship. You've got your app, you've got your supplements, you've got a range of different fitness businesses. And I'm gonna pick Ollie's brain apart. I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna pick all the business wisdom and we're gonna unpack it and present it to you guys in actionable steps. So we're gonna get stuck straight in. Ollie, give us a snapshot of the fitness industry in 2023 and what are your predictions for 2024?
I think this year's been all about opportunity. I think it's beginning to settle now after what we've seen from what happened in 2020. So I think it's beginning to settle. We've got the lay of the land. I think it's the land of opportunity for, like we said earlier, the cream is rising to the top. So I think people who have invested into their education, into their product, into their team, into their brand and what their brand stands for, and started to build a community and a culture that people want to go and be a part of. I think we're beginning to see that now.
100%.
So I think it's probably more of the same for those people, and those that haven't invested in those things need to start to jump on that bandwagon as quickly as possible, and not the other bandwagons that they seem to be jumping on with getting distracted from one thing to another. Otherwise they'll be left behind.
And when we talk about gym owner growth and gym success, what truly separates somebody from a low quality, small group, semi-private studio that's maybe doing 100, 150K per year to a facility that's doing, north of 750K to over $1 million? What are let's start with the founder's vision. What are the big things about a founder's vision? What are the things when it comes to marketing? What are the things when it comes to sales? And what are the things when it comes to customer journey retention? Like, what are the key pieces? Let's start with vision, and then we'll go into marketing, sales, and then customer journey.
So from a vision perspective, I think most people go wrong if they go too small, right? The days of just having a barn gym or converting a garage or the small little unit on an industrial estate. Obviously, there's a capital requirement to get started with a big gym, with a private gym. And not many people have access or the whereabouts to go and get funding. But people go too small from the get-go, and it's not an inspirational place to go and train. So. There's many people now in your gym in your local market starting gyms, and you don't want the decision of the consumer to be based on who's got the best kit and who's got the bigger gym, which on the face of things is where they're going to make their decision to begin with. So I think you've got to go stretch yourself, push yourself, and be a little uncomfortable in the size of gym you have, particularly if you want to try and hit the £700,000 a year mark, because you need the space to be able to do so. You need to be able the capacity to be able to get people in there. So I think from a vision standpoint, the actual gym needs to be a destination, it needs to be impressive, and it needs to be a place where people want to go and spend their time, and a non-negotiable in their weekly diary. The vision then also speaks to the team. So if you want to hire the best coaches, your gym needs to be an aspirational place to go and work. We always spoke about in the early days, creating Marchon, that we wanted that to be the office that we never wanted to leave. If we never wanted to leave it, then our clients would never want to leave it, and they want to come back. And if you adopt that mindset of some of those big corporates, the Google offices, like what do they put in their office where the employees are well looked after? So that's a nice gym where coaches feel inspired to come and work, a nice uniform that they feel inspired to put on, a staff room where they feel where they can go and do their work and their jobs off the gym floor. So I think all those things need to be taken into consideration. Because then young coaches coming through want to go and work in those gyms.
And what do you find are the main drivers of a really successful gym owner? I have kind of seen this shift over the last probably 3 years, post-pandemic particularly, where I've seen gym owners really move away from the shift of wanting to be the best gym owner in the part of the country or part of the town or part of the village to who can make the most money. I've really seen that shift in the overall fitness industry, that money is now a huge driver for a lot of people that are just getting into business or they're trying to compare like the size, the revenue numbers compared to somebody else. And I think business mentorship and a lot more of this how to get rich material that we're seeing on social media is responsible for that. But I'd love to hear it from your side. What are the main drivers? Is it still to be the best in the village, best in the town, a coach that prides himself on owning a facility and having a community of people? Or has it transitioned into this, who can make the most money, or is it a combination of all that?
I think it's a combination of both. I think with the growth or the awareness brought to the fundamentals of business, which I think most gym owners didn't understand from the get-go, right? They're a business owner, but they don't really understand the fundamentals of having a great product, being able to market it, being able to sell it, and then be able to drive profitability. All those words now, and part of the vocabulary, is becoming part of the modern day gym owner. So they're becoming a little bit more educated in what actual business is. So to that end, they're now thinking about trying to make more money and make more profit. I still think that, I think it's very much a combination of both. Being the best trainer, but unfortunately a lot of the old guard who believed their best trainers were making fuck all money because they didn't know how to, and they were selling things too cheap because of their own self-limiting beliefs around what they could charge. So I think they're a little bit more savvy, a little bit more wise, and now they're actually trying to be the best trainer, but also drive profitability. And I think the other thing to that is getting caught up in the fact that the other side of the industry, the online coaches, are living a life of luxury, or so it seems, through social media. So people in person and in brick and mortar, they want a piece of that. They might not have the freedom day to day like online coaches might do, but they will have the freedom when they go on holiday to start to have better holidays, enjoy the finer things in life. And I think that's a desire that most gym owners and in-person coaches also want now.
Yeah. Let's talk about marketing and getting clients. Would love to know, is it tougher to get gym clients now than ever before? If so, why? And if not, why do you think so? And what's working right now in terms of marketing and getting clients, in terms of style of post, funnel, process? What's working?
So we built our gym, and I'm talking some sort of lived experiences with our gym and then the gym owners that we work with. We built our gym entirely from word of mouth to the first 200 plus members.
Wow.
And I believe that's very easy to do when you're in a market where you've got local notoriety, you've become the busiest trainer, because people are going to do the selling for you. And again, when we talk about brand, culture, community, literally people will go and do the selling for you to a point where you don't need to put much of effort into marketing from the get-go. So I think getting to the first 50 members should be very easy, because you should be at that stage when you transition from PTing into gym ownership, if that's your journey. Getting to the next 100 is very easy, because then those 50 people will go and do that work for you. And then I believe that it gathers momentum. Going and being a person of the town, interacting with local businesses, like the usual offline way of marketing a gym, having good conversations and just getting people results, I think is incredibly important. From a paid perspective.
So this is once you have maximized your notoriety, your connections, conversations, personal training clients, and leveraged all that, you get to a point where obviously you have to balance the revenue with the expenses, and one of the ways to force more clients in beyond all the stuff you've exhausted is paid. So like, run me through style of advert, process, what is work, what do you see working?
The classic standing in a local landmark, which will resonate with the audience, and looking, we're looking for 5, 10, 15 men who want to get in shape, build their confidence, feel the best they've ever felt, and we're selling 6-week challenges is the thing that seems to be working well for people.
I remember it was actually a friend of mine, a guy Dean Jackson. He's a very famous marketer in the States. Came up with the 5130, which is a 5 is the number of the people, the one thing in the 30 days. Yeah. And like, this has been around for decades. Yeah. And I remember sharing it like, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And now you see every coach doing it. And some of them are actually afraid to use it because they see so many other people using it, but it works. Yeah, so right?
I was one of those people, right? Built all of our businesses from word of mouth, organic, with the influence that we had and the value we had in the marketplace. And like I said to you before, we hadn't done any sort of paid strategy, whether online or in our gyms, up until about 12 months ago.
Wow.
And I particularly didn't want to do those type of ads. We're looking for 15 people in the local area that want to X, Y, and Z, because for me it was very American. It wasn't on brand. It wasn't who we are. We didn't want to sell. Yes, we're selling an outcome, but we didn't want to sell a 6-week challenge because I know it was time dependent and that's what people are after, but we wanted to sell this Marchon way of life and this journey. So I avoided it like the plague, and we tried to think of every which way and every type of ad we could maybe run that was a little bit more on brand and inspirational. It just wasn't working. As soon as we bit the bullet and went in with, you know, the classic way of doing things, even with very Americanized, ugly landing pages, things very soon changed for us. So
yeah,
I'm fully on board with it.
So landmark, very simple statement. We're looking for number identity to transform in time frame.
Yeah, it's just simple language that actually resonates with people. You think that the cool picture of someone hitting this deadlift with the fancy lights of your gym and the brand name behind it with a cool caption is going to resonate with someone who's, you know, just literally lacking in confidence, scared to go in the gym.
Yep.
Is only concerned about how they lose the next 2-3 pounds, not about what, you know, what the weight of their deadlift is.
Yep.
That's what they're after. So speaking in simple language with something they understand, where they believe there's a tangible outcome at the end of that 6 weeks.
Yep. Let's talk about sales. Let's start with offers. So what are the core components that you feel are important to a semi-private facility? We're not going to talk about bodybuilding facilities or, you know, come in, pay 40 quid a month kind of facilities. What are the range of offers that a gym should have, and what are the price points? What do they look like?
So we're talking about semi-private personal training?
That's because I think
that's
the majority of people watching this are going to be those kind of people.
Yeah, so just to zoom it back a step, the reason we believe in small group personal training being the best thing is because once you have exhausted that one-to-one way of training, you know, even when you keep pushing your prices up, there's obviously the scaling option is not there for people. And
just quick fire question: what is the size that one would should aim for or strive to aim for maximum quality of service, without a customer getting too peeved off as there's too many people here, versus the intimacy of I feel like I'm getting a personal trainer?
Yeah, so we started off as 1 to 4. We now do 1 to 6. And if you'd have told me a couple of years ago 1 to 6 is small group personal training, I'd have laughed you out the door, because I hadn't seen it, so I couldn't believe it. I thought we needed 1 to 4 allowed an intimate relationship where we could get client results and people would have enough focus and attention on them. Now we've moved to 1 to 6. It's working a dream, but you also have to build into that the coach's ability to be a little bit more dynamic. Your facility design, your program design, it's everything. So I think coaches first and foremost need to have the skill set and the capability to do 1 to 6. They also then need to have, like I say, facility design, spatial awareness, and understand their market and the people that are coming through the door really well. I think
they need to have coaching experience to know regressions, progressions. There needs to be accessibility to all the kit for that number in the facility. That plays into the equipment that you invest in, the shape, the style of the flow of the gym. Very important. So 1 to 4 to 1 to 6, and you know, if we were to price that, if I'm a customer looking at your range of prices, or I'm on a call with one of your team, how does that work?
So we will sell at the front end a 6-week challenge. We also have a 30-day trial for people that want to refer people, but the 6-week challenge is the thing we're bringing people on first and foremost.
So so the one offer, 6-week trial, come and try us for 6 weeks, get a result, and then what happens?
Then we'll sell them into a membership.
Right, and that is a monthly recurring?
Exactly, so everything's monthly recurring. And again, we at the moment, we're not currently selling 12-month commitments, but people will stick. If people go through a 6-week challenge and they join your gym, they're gonna stick around if you get the next 90 days right.
Yes. And just as a basic question, as you know, you've communicated to your team, what kind of expectation are you placing on your team in terms of what do you want that client to have achieved within 6 weeks? Like, is there, you know, percentage drop in body weight, or a percentage increase in, can they lift, you know, X amount of their body weight off the floor? Like, is there any kind of measures of success, or is it purely measured on the ascension from the 6 week into a long-term member? How do you measure the success of that?
Everyone's going to be different based on their goals and motivations for coming to your gym in the first case. But it will be based on the assessment and the goal setting session, the strategy session with that client. So if it's someone that is around body composition, we use InBody. There's obviously other machines, but we'll use that to set some baseline metrics, and then we'll check in after 3 weeks and 6 weeks as well. And there'll be drip-fed nutrition coaching or support and guidance around that to ensure that happens. If it's more around a performance client where they want to PB their deadlift, for example, although they're few and far between, Again, we'll still use InBody, but we'll use other things. We'll build in, we'll leverage more the training program, the frequency of sessions to the strength sessions, some certain lifestyle factors, and we'll make sure that it's a tailored approach during that 6 weeks based on what they say they want when they come in. And there's going to be some.
When you say tailored approach, I come in, I get an assessment, I lock in my goals. You obviously have a range of classes that client can choose from, and maybe some online education or intellectual property that's in a portal somewhere that they can access. How are you customizing? Is that based on injury, dietary conditions? Right the whole way through to time they've got available to train. Is that
so someone in the gym will be responsible and the point of contact,
programmer
for that 6 weeks.
Yep.
Well, programmer, but more so making sure that throughout that 6 weeks their customer journey is tailored to them. Right. So guiding them into which sessions they should come to in the first couple of weeks. Yep. Right. The ratio of strength to conditioning classes they should do. The person that checks in with them after the first couple of weeks to make sure that everything is as it should be.
Yep.
From a programming standpoint, in the sessions, we'll have a skeleton that we work off from a programming standpoint, sets and reps and exercises. But again, to the point around facility design, seldom would you have all 6 people being able to back squat if that's what the key lift is for that day. Also, seldom would you have 6 people doing 6 different variations of squatting, but you need to have the ability to be able to tailor the approach, or whatever the squat variation is for that person. It's not necessarily a regression or progression, it's just finding the right exercise to allow adequate challenge to that individual for that session. But that main point of contact, they might not necessarily be the coach that coaches them in session, because again, from a scheduling standpoint for us, for the staff, they're just on shift. But they'll be the point of contact off the gym floor to ensure that they are doing all they can to encourage a sale by the end, and they'll be encouraging the sale by making sure that they meet that client's requirements of when they came in. And there's also going to be a little bit of just managing expectations. If someone comes in and say, I want to drop 20 kilos, there's some managing expectations around what needs to happen for that to be the case.
Yeah, 100%. So what does the monthly recurring look like? How much is the 6 weeks, and what is the monthly recurring?
6 weeks is 397. Again, in our local market, in Harpenden, in our Stratford gym, it's 297. Slightly younger demographic, slightly different market. So we're playing around with different price points, and I don't believe there's any harm in playing around with different price points. And then as you get more confidence in selling and understand the consumer a little bit more, we can start to move it.
I have a burning question.
Yep.
So we have online coaches that are charging anything from $1,000 to $7,000 for a block of 90 days of coaching into a recurring back end of anything from $250 to 500 quid for a range of different demographics and problems. And I've always been very curious as to how online coaches can charge that and keep a customer for up to 12 to 24 months and get them to commit to paying that, yet there's next to no in-person communication. I firmly believe that gym owners have got a tighter control over the result, because I can call out Sandra for not coming to your sessions. I can say, where have you been? I can correct her form on the deadlift. I can say, hey, can you get your ass in gear? Can you go a little bit harder? Whereas an online coach doesn't really have that level of control. So, that begs the question, can gym owners charge high ticket pricing, without the exception of personal trainers and one-to-one coaching, for semi-private? Have you seen that? Have you tested it? Do you know of anybody doing it well? I've got some insights from clients that we've been working with, we've been trialing it, that I would just love to really get your professional insight on.
So beyond the trial or challenge, I would price somewhere between £300 to £500, and that would be your monthly recurring. And like I say, people will stick around for anywhere between 12 months to 3 years.
Yep.
Again, we need to define what high ticket would be in that instance for small group training.
So let's say, you were saying the 6 week challenge was 349.
Yeah.
So
somewhere around that price
point. If we
point.
go with the average price point, 1.5K isn't high ticket. It's kind of like mid ticket. High ticket is more like 2.5, 3K and up in sterling. So let's go with a really kind of industry average of 1.5K for 90 days. Do you feel that would be
achievable,
difficult to achieve with a semi-private gym?
Yes.
Why?
I don't believe that right now.
When online coaches
Yeah.
have already proven in the marketplace that they're getting it. I would love to know, why is that hard to achieve? Is it a limiting belief on the gym owners front? Is it just the inability to have the skill to sell at that level? What is the constraint there?
It's probably a little bit of those things. I also think the consumer right now, when they look at a gym, they don't understand what is different from a semi-private training gym to a personal training gym to a gym just in the local town. So I think that there's some evolution of the consumer that needs to take place. There's probably some self-limiting beliefs as well from the gym owner or coaches.
It's a risk to put that price point up in a small community and hear no.
Yeah, and I also think that the types of people that will be investing into the £2,000, £7,000 online, they're seeing transformations, they're seeing social proof, that they've bought into a story of that person that's selling it.
Yep.
And they've probably been following them for a period of time. Whereas with gyms, you don't necessarily have that. So I don't think there's been that work at the front end to be able to get someone to a position where they think, okay, this is worth £1,500 of my time. I think you could still sell it. I think you could sell front end one-to-one personal training in person at those sort of prices. I don't think you can sell it for small group personal training.
Yeah.
At least not right now.
Well, I love what you said there about that front end work. What we have found is that gym owners are very poor on the organic side of content, and they've very much relied on ads to get clients in, especially when they start working through the OGs that have joined their gym from maybe when they first started, and they start obviously evolving and growing, and a lot of those people outgrow the gym and leave, and there's just a natural client life cycle. But I find that lack of organic marketing into the founder, their backstory, why they set up the gym, the individual client lives, there is almost like a lack of consistency with that. And it's very much like when the videographer comes, they shoot a load of stuff, they use it, and then it's sporadic for a while. But the way that I've sort of seen it is, well, if I look at the marketplace and the fact that online coaches are charging 1.5K to, like I said, 5K plus, and getting it with a range of people that would live in these areas. And I look at the price of personal training on average, let's say it's £75 an hour. And if I look at the price of semi-private and the amount of times that I can go to a session, let's say 4 times a week is kind of optimal for the average person. And if I look at what would that cost me with a personal trainer at 75 quid an hour, which is relatively cheap for a trainer. It's probably the average price here, but 75 quid an hour, 4 times a week, and then the gym membership on top of that, it works out substantially dearer than that of semi-private. So, semi-private do, in my opinion, have the capacity to charge way more, because usually those semi-private gyms are like highly dialed on service, highly dialed on community, and the result that they're getting that client, especially over that initial 90 days or short-term period, there's a lot of front work up with the team and onboarding and all that kind of stuff, that I just feel is that there's just a massive gap in price point of where it should be. And I see a lot of gym owners, just because I've been working in the online world and I've seen what people are willing to pay and how long they're willing to stay without any in-person contact. It's maybe data that I'm more exposed to than yourself versus me being exposed to the gym world. But I always look at these gym guys as like, well, if you're going to get a better service, the gym is going to provide that. Like, there's no question about it. I can go to a coach and tap him on the shoulder and go, hey, like my weight was up this week. Like, what can I do? And I speak to a human, versus doing it over Zoom or doing it over Discord or whatever communication channel an online coach is using. So I just kind of feel that there is a massive opportunity there for gym owners to, charge a similar 1 to not even maybe even 3K price point for that initial 90 days and go into a back end. And, we have had gym owners that have come to us ultra frustrated and said, why are all these online coaches making all this money when we are putting money into in-body scanners, all this equipment, all these like bigger premises, our team, our education for our team? Like, they are established business owners that have a lot of risk, and in order for them to provide, they need to be making profit, which is the number one thing. And I just feel, based on the transformation, the quality of services that I see semi-private commit themselves to, and the time frame, is I kind of feel that they could be charging a decent whack more. And I know that there's clients that one, can pay that on a one-to-one basis to a personal trainer. Two, will pay it to an online person, online coach. And I just feel that there's kind of this gap, and it does boil back to me to limiting beliefs. I'm worried about somebody saying I'm too dear and going telling the rest of the village. Or two, I just don't have the sales skill to be able to command that kind of revenue. And, you know, obviously, like yourself, I want, you know, having the courage to go and set up a business is a huge risk. And, you know, there's nothing worse than, we've all been there, being in the personal training career or the gym career, like taking all this risk, working 40 hours per week and never getting the opportunity to, one, create wealth, or two, have the money to actually buy your freedom at the end of it. And they just end up these busy fools the whole time. So for me, it's purely like, is there an opportunity there? Why aren't they seizing it? You know, like logically, they're going to pay a personal trainer that money. And the service inside a semi-private gym is far better than a personal trainer, because I can go to whatever time frame, I can go to whatever class. I know there's a community element to it. I know I don't have to suit the trainer. I know you've got different modalities of cardiovascular, strength, whatever. There's so much flexibility and benefit of it, which makes me really question, you know, is this a model that could be adopted? And I know a lot of the American gyms are utilizing, especially in the semi-private, this high ticket model. So it's just something fascinating for me, and I think,
well, actually, firstly, I think you're completely right. I think we need to be careful not to overinflate the potential of the current state of gym owners, because it isn't actually they're not that sophisticated when it comes to sales, marketing, and even product. So they're not quite there yet. Whereas
why? Because they've been so busy coaching, or
that, and because the competition doesn't demand them to be. But online, it does demand you to be.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that is the personal brand. So I would pay £7,000 to someone when their brand is that strong and there's so much social proof and credibility around them, and I've bought into their story through social media. Gym owners don't have that, because they're still on the gym floor or putting out fires each day, and they haven't thought about personal brand and presence in the local market above and beyond what they did when they first started to get their first 10, 15, 20 clients.
Yeah. So you've obviously built your personal brand, right? And I'd really love to know, you know, you're kind of an outlier in that world of, what have you done differently to build the Marchon brand, obviously with your physique, your businesses, your mentorship? Like, how have you created this persona inside a personal brand whilst also doing these gyms? Like, what have been the principles that have allowed that to happen?
Consistency is, I think, the first thing. Playing the long game. You know, when I first started on Snapchat or whatever the platform was, it wasn't with the intention of building a personal brand. It wasn't a personal brand. Those words weren't really around at that time. It was a way that I knew that I could communicate the skill set that I had, or the information that I was keeping, to people that might follow at the other side of it. And I've just done that ever since. And like I said, it was a genuine passion to show up every day and log and vlog the things that I was doing, because there were things that made me feel good, and I knew that they could also add value to other people. So it just became this thing that then compounded.
And when you started Snapchat, what did you have in play? Just your online coaching?
Yeah, just online coaching.
Yeah.
I actually, when I first adopted the social media channels, and I haven't adopted the ones that have come later as well as I did, you know, like I say, Instagram. But it was more just a platform where I could put photos, videos of my training, and also communicate with an audience. And when you start to see that the interactions begin to build and you start to have connections with people, I actually genuinely liked having interactions and conversations with people in the DMs all over the world on a regular daily basis. So even though the following is not huge compared to some others, it's a very bought-in community and people that resonate with what Marchon's about.
Yep.
So I think that can be fast-tracked, right? You can go viral and you can go quicker, but I don't think you can fast-track connection with people.
Yep.
So I think you just need to play the long game a little bit more.
So you kind of had this background opportunity that you used.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of gym owners are busy on the floor coaching, and they kind of overlook that side of things.
It's situational too, right? Like, I haven't laboured too much in my career as a gym owner or coach on my professional rugby career. But as an athlete, you mentioned the physique. Before that, it was an athlete. I could do things in the gym or on the athletics track or with weights that a lot of people couldn't do. It was aspirational.
Yes.
I had a career in high performance sport, elite sport, that was aspirational. So I was gathering a followership from different places where I could, people would resonate and aspire to be either like me or to try things like me. Then you add in the risk of starting your own gym and trying to move fast and adopting principles from America and bringing on a team and coaches and then bringing on someone in the creative team and brand. Gym owners all of a sudden are looking in, going, this guy's moving so fast, but I was just riding a wave of people that were coming in and creating a wave around me. So I think it was situational, and I think it was just my attitude and mindset towards growth and the speed in which I wanted to move at.
Love it. Let's talk about team. What's the biggest mistake where people go wrong when it comes to hiring team, and why?
Rushing into it. Well, I think actually people go to put a job advert out and the sort of tumbleweeds just come past. No one bites, because again, it goes back to a personal brand. If you've got a gym in the arse end of nowhere and it's not particularly aspirational and you haven't put anything out there where people want to come and work for you, why would they either relocate? They won't. So then you're just picking up the dregs of people in your local market, local town, that might want to come and work for you. Now, the best trainers are probably on their own little mission, going online or building their own gyms as well. So you end up picking, you're fighting over the scraps. So I think firstly it goes, your role as a business owner is to constantly be trying to be someone, an employer brand where people would want to come and work for you. And that's a daily...
And what are the 3 things that gym owners can take from this right now that they need to start doing to do that?
Documenting how how cool it is to come and work for you. The lifestyle and showing, to attract the right coaches, showing the amount of effort you put into your coaching practice, to your programming, to the education of the coaches, to the career prospects for coaches that could come and work for you, how cool the community are, how nice the facility is, what you're like as a person, and the care you show to the people that come and work for you. But I think a lot of gym owners, a lot of business owners, particularly that are coming from that one-man band place, which most people, that's where you start, right? They don't appreciate the fact that you're not just trying to attract clients, you're trying to attract people that would want to come and be on the same mission and work for you, and that want to buy into your vision. So I think that's the first, not necessarily a mistake, but that's where people are going wrong from the get-go. They're not an attractive proposition for potential coaches.
For coaches that are listening to this right now, and you've probably experienced this because I know this happens a lot in gyms. They hire a team, coach gets a mind of their own, goes and creates their own gym, takes clients with them. Have you experienced that? What advice would you give to those people? Because I having been in the industry for quite some time, that's always a terror that I heard throughout my journey and my time in the industry.
We haven't personally experienced it too much, coaches taking clients and moving elsewhere, because we try and make the business so robust that they wouldn't want to leave to go and try and do something that's going to be competitive. They might want to go on to to do something else, and that's absolutely fine.
So that means you make the marketing that strong, the sales that strong, the team culture that strong, that in order to replicate that, they would have to literally.
Yeah, why would you go and start a B side of what we're currently doing? So I think from a hiring perspective, where you can hire and retain, is make sure that the roles and responsibilities are very clear, so people understand what they're in for. Why are they doing when they join your team? Mapping out what success looks like, making people accountable to their deliverables, so that you are being a good people manager. And celebrating in the success, but also giving them enough challenge that they know that there's the next job there. I think that's the key piece where people miss it, because it's difficult, right? If you're a busy gym owner, you're still doing delivery, you're still trying to do marketing, you're trying to do sales, and then you have to manage team and do the check-ins and one-to-ones, and there can be a lot on your plate. And I think it's often missed that you think that people can just get on with their job and be left alone and they'll be fine. But they want to know that they're doing well. They want to know where they can do better. And then I also think giving them KPIs and then mapping out what the next level of their career looks like from a remuneration standpoint. So financial, personal, and professional, making sure that they're constantly challenged and stimulated in those 3 areas.
Yeah. A couple of quick fire questions. What is an ideal target profit range for a gym?
In terms of percentage, 35%, 40% can be achieved.
Okay. As a founder, what is the key role of a founder in the gym, and what is a target amount of hours that they should be working? Obviously that's open-ended, but what would be something aspirational to strive for?
I think
For
constantly
somebody with a family and wants to travel maybe 3 or 4 times a year, doesn't want to be in the weeds, like what is run me through in a 30-second snapshot, like what their role is and what kind of team size they have.
I think constantly making yourself redundant from any role within the business is like what your North Star should be. So if you're on the floor coaching, it's to get yourself off the gym floor and make sure coaches are at a standard where you're not missed on the gym floor. Then you're going to move into the back of house operations, marketing, etc. I think the next person would be someone in operations who's going to deal with customer service, customer journey, look after the team, schedule team rotas, schedule team holidays, etc. I think you're probably going to start with an agency when it comes to marketing. You're probably not going to hire someone internally just because of finances and just, again, your own attitude towards bringing on marketing people and your experience with that. You won't have that as a gym owner.
Yeah.
You won't understand probably the value that can have. So yeah, removing yourself from the gym floor, having someone in operations, bringing in a marketing agency, and then you will probably manage sales until you feel confident that you can then pass on that skill set to someone else. But it's probably something that the gym owner is most naturally confident in doing as opposed to the other coaches. Unless, of course, like I say, your attitude is that you can hire in someone with a specific skill set in sales that doesn't do any coaching deliverables. But again, most gym owners are only, their only experience of hiring is coaches on the gym floor, technical coaches, not people that understand the other facets of the business.
What proportion of gym owners in general, roughly, do you think have got a sales team in place? Less than 10%?
Less than 10%.
Yeah.
Gym owners that come into gym ownership, not from being a personal trainer, will have a sales team in place. They'll come into running, they own a gym, but they've never been a coach themselves. They've done sales or they've done something and they want to own a business and they like fitness. Fitness has done something in their life, it's changed their life. They'll come in, they'll open a gym and they'll understand sales and marketing from the get-go. They just won't understand product. So they come up from the other end. The product's usually shit. They can bring people in, but facility design, service, programming, delivery is usually quite poor.
Cool. I would like to offer the opportunity for you to ask any questions around the online world, marketing, sales, vision, mindset, team, operations on this side, if there's anything that can be of benefit to gym owners or anything like that. So if you've got anything that you want to ask or...
I think it's a really interesting dynamic in the lens you said about the big front end, right, and downselling then the upsell to the commitment for whatever it is thereafter. How do you think that dynamic works? Where do you think the right price point would be based on the fact that those types of consumers potentially when they're sat at home, you're fighting with that person scrolling Instagram and the cool people that they've already bought into that are selling high ticket programs and a transformation, some sort of transformative product, and then the ad that you might pop through, or your business page that's kind of a bit haphazard, that doesn't really look that cool compared to this online coach.
Well, it all starts with a very clear targeted customer, and you want to target customers that have got a track record of investing in themselves. Have you spent over 500 quid on fitness gear? Have you spent over 500 quid on Lululemon? Have you downloaded MyFitnessPal? Have you been a member of a gym for a year? Have you spent 500 pounds on weight loss products, supplements, waist trimming belts, whatever it is? Those are all identifiers that somebody has actually had a problem and they've paid money to try and solve it. When they have a track record of investing, they will have a track record of investing again versus somebody that doesn't. So it's
How are you establishing the track record?
So you establish a track record with your messaging by really saying that you're interested in working with people that have list of criteria, and you can change all that. Very simple example, every personal trainer or gym owner will have some form of following. I don't care if it's 100 people, 2,000 people, 10,000 people. There will be people that will vote on that. And the big thing that I always say to trainers is you are 5, 10 sales away from feeling radically different about your financial situation. You put a poll up, have you ever spent more than 500 pounds on Lululemon gear or fancy training gear? Automatically, if I say yes, you know that I'm seriously interested in training. Because if I'm not going to spend that money, why would I spend 500 pounds of my hard-earned money to buy that gear? I buy that gear to look good. It's a symbol of, I take my fitness seriously, my lifestyle seriously. You kind of look at the brand that they're buying into. Then it's a matter about having a conversation with that person. And that's that sales conversation and presenting them your deliverables on how you're going to get them to the future identity that they want to be. So when it comes to selling, you've got three important things. Number one is, who is the future identity that I am creating for you? So with Fitness Entrepreneur, I always remember my mom introducing me to people. And this is Phil, he's a personal trainer. This is Phil, he's a online personal trainer. And I always used to like cringe inside. I was like, I'm so much more than a personal trainer. And I began to just naturally use the language, I'm a fitness entrepreneur. It was like the easiest way to introduce myself. And when I look at the way that personal training has evolved, it has evolved from being a dropout failure career to being one of the most well-paid, lucrative careers in an incredibly fast-growing industry, where people can actually have the opportunity to build the life that they want for themselves, and also impact and really have a huge impact on public health. I truly believe that a gym and a personal trainer in many ways, shapes and forms are just as, if not in some cases, more important than a doctor, because a doctor's always dealing with the, like, let's fix it, whereas we're in the preventative phase. So I really have strong, values around the utility of personal trainers and gyms in protecting and promoting public health. But, with that, when you lock on the identity of who you're going to be creating for someone, and that is being very, very clear on, like, what are we doing? What kind of people are we working with? What kind of identity are we creating? And usually in some way, shapes or forms, that is the younger version of somebody who has set up the gym. In some way, it's a resemblance of that. And it's based on their backstory, their big achievements in their lives, the beliefs that shape that, their level of expertise and their experience, and then their mechanism, which is the next thing after identity, is the how are we going to do that? And the mechanism is that this is our system. This is my IP from years of working with this, solving my own problems, doing this, helping others, and I've put it into this gym. So it's identity, and you've got mechanism, and then you've got the social proof of the people that come in that want that identity, that use that mechanism, and then create that marketing material. So you've got messaging on the front end that's like, hey, these are the prerequisite, like the previous investments that I want you to have made that really tell me that you're actually interested in solving this problem. Number two is that I've got an identity that I'm talking about on my front end. I've got a mechanism that you're interested in, and I've also got social proof. So you're already bought into those three things. And then I have a sales conversation with you. And I basically say to you, how much is it worth for you to wake up every day loving your body? How much is it worth for you every single day to know that you're doing the right things to drive your health, promote longevity, set a good example for your daughter? When I get clear on the goals that you want to achieve for yourself, like you want to do this, you want to be able to do that, what are your aspirations? Okay, that's your future life. What's your current life like now? What's your circumstances like? They're the polar opposite. Okay, is it pretty clear to say that, this is your future life goals? If you look at all the customers that you have sold over the years, or that have come in, that have had limiting beliefs, at one point they will come to you and say, I'm so glad that you told me the truth on that call. I'm so glad that you told me that at that right time. I'm so glad that you gave me that opportunity. That's if you're doing the things the right way and your service backs up what you say. So you bring those people on board and you basically compare, okay, like, what is the cost of inaction here? And you weigh that up. And if, with what we've been testing with this kind of like 1K for 30 days into a back end of 250, that 1K is the initial upfront. And the reason, like, this is very important to understand from a business side, a business health perspective and a profitability perspective, because very few people understand this. When you look at your business, the business that has the most cash has the most power, right? If I am strapped for cash, I cannot buy things. I cannot pay for things, and I'm running on pure fear and dread, right? We've all been there. The more cash that I can collect up front, the better. So when you look at collecting cash up front over a 90-day period, you're getting paid in advance. When you get paid in advance for things, it feels good. You ever remember when you were a personal trainer and somebody used to come and pay for 20 sessions, he used to hand you a brown envelope, and you were like, yes, right? That's what it feels like. So when you get paid up front for that, it gives you buying power. Now, not everybody is going to be able to afford that up front, so you can split that into a 2 or 3 pay. You can then split that further into, okay, what is that cost over 6 months plus a little bit of the 3 months of back-end MRR, divide that by 6, put a little bit of interest on, and you're lowering the bar. So you're giving somebody the opportunity to pay a good, decent up front. If they can't afford that, look, I'd hate for money to get in the way. Can you do this? Split it, add a little bit of interest because that revenue's at risk. Can't do that. Look, don't normally do this, but what about this? And then you're splitting it even more. You're lowering the bar for people to get into your world. And, the upfront is more of a, if you don't ask, you don't get. Here's the value. Do you see the value? Some people will say yes. Some people will say, I need to go split. And a few people will say, I can't. And when you look at fragmenting your price point down on those levels, you lower the bar. And when you lower the bar, you can actually take on more volume. So the whole opportunity is to collect as much cash as possible to put the business in a cash-rich position. And the reason why we need to do that is if you look at marketing math, you've got 3 factors. Number 1, you've got your cost of acquisition. And every business will get to a point where they exhaust their organic leads and they need to start paying to play or paying to buy customers. So you've got cost of customer acquisition. Let's say, for example, that's 250 quid. Let's say you're paying 250 quid referral. Let's say you're paying 250 on Facebook ads. I don't care, right? You've actually got more cost than that because you've got cost of labor, you've got cost of electricity, you've got cost of rent. So it could, in essence, be 370, let's just say, for the cost of acquisition, right? You then have your lifetime value. So what does the customer stay on average and what do they pay? Go into your Stripe, go into your GoCardless, find that information. That allows you to predictably say, what can I pay to acquire a customer? And then you look at how quickly is that money paid back, right? So if I am on a coaching model where I'm charging £200 a month and my cost of acquisition is 370, I'm not making money until I'm literally halfway through month 2, which puts my business in a very compromised position. And that pricing model, I introduced that probably about 4 years ago. And people are like, oh, all it is just getting paid up, like just paid a lump sum, but it's spread over. Yeah, but if you actually understand marketing and when you go to scale marketing, that excess money that's paid up front puts you in an extremely advantageous position. So when you can afford to spend more money, you can just blitzkrieg a community with like your presence. And people are going to tell you to fuck off, but people can't ignore you. And the only way that they can ignore you is by blocking you or buying from you, right? So, that's where the whole essence of whoever can afford to spend the most wins, because it's just pure dominance and omnipresence, right? So I really believe that there is a lot of merit into adopting that pricing model for de-risking a gym owner, for maximizing investment opportunity, for conquering the market, and also for rewarding a service that is worth every fucking penny. Those are my thoughts on it. And then the back end is essentially the monthly recurring. The challenge with collecting that money up front, if you get people on the upfronts, is it creates lumpy cash flow, which can feel very volatile. And if you haven't got good mastery of your emotions, you'll be highly erratic. But I always tell people to look at, the only revenue that matters is at the end of year when you do your accounts or quarters, not months. A month is such a small time in business. A week is a small time in business. And I see so many business owners get upset when they don't hit, an appropriate month and whatever. And, building a very strong back end means that you actually need to sell less of the upfronts. You get a higher committed customer, higher quality, you get less drag on team, more bandwidth availability. You don't need to expand your facility, which puts you at risk. Commercial tenant or landlord, comes to you and goes, hey, the rent's going up. You can't control that. So, you mitigate risk. And that's how I look at it through a business lens, maybe not a coach lens, but a business lens. And I've always been, this whole fitness entrepreneur thing was like, I kind of realized at a point in time when I was a coach, when I was doing so much one-to-one, that I realized, hey, this is fucking really ineffective here, and I'm actually getting tired and really pissed off of these fucking clients. And you know what? I'm beginning to fucking hate this thing. Oh, and fuck, she hasn't lost 3 pounds. Well, fuck her, right? I'll apply to that tomorrow. So I realized that I needed to work smarter, and the only way for me to do that was think entrepreneurially. How can I put in the systems, processes, people, technology and curriculum and leverage to allow me to actually avoid repeating myself, and actually provide faster answers for my clients and maximize my energy so that I show up at my best. And I want to make sure that I'm getting fucking paid great money. I want to make sure that I'm only doing the stuff that I can really do well. I want to make sure every other thing is delegated. And quite frankly, I want to see us grow. I don't want to see us sitting and plateaued. 3 clients leave, now I have to get 3 more. And I'm not making any money when I take into account the time, effort, and money I'm putting into acquiring a customer. So that was the whole ethos behind it. It's called like the upfront and the tail, we call it. So that's that's how it came out of frustration.
Yeah.
And we adopted that in the online world. And I just think there's such a lot of merit in it in the gym world. I just think the only thing that's holding people back is limiting beliefs. So those are my thoughts on it.
So a lot of the gym owners that would have got to the stage of owning a gym,
Yep.
Business would have come easy to them in terms of their one-to-one coaching. They get to a stage where they're coaching 30, 40 hours a week and they open a gym on limited budget and get going with it. They're still very much in the weeds and never really learned the technical side of marketing in more relevant sales.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this gym owner, where do they place their attention? Is it in front-end sales? Because then they're going to drop the ball with then the monthly recurring thereafter, because they can change someone's life in 4 weeks or 6 weeks, but then things are going to go south in the time after because they've seen all the value in the front end. And then moreover, in the front end, how much time is this gym owner and this gym spending with that individual to be able to affect the result and make it worth £1,000, £1,500?
Got it. Okay, so the first thing you need to realize is that the same people are going and spending 500, 1,000, maybe 1,500 on a night out by the time they take into account clothes, travel, food, all of those things. They're also telling you that they can't afford it on a £1,000 iPhone. We know that these people spend a lot of money on looking good and feeling good. So it's first important to get your head around the price point, and that £1,000 for 3 months of coaching is actually not a huge price point. I get it's way out of the range of a normal gym owner, but here's the thing.
Are we saying 3 months of coaching or the first 4 weeks?
First 3 months, like first 2 to 3 months, whatever way you want to frame it. Some people do it 2 months, some people do it 3 months, but I'm just using 1,000 as, well, let's just say 2K, right, to elevate it a little bit.
Yep.
So let's say we have an offer of 2K for the first 3, or make it more realistic for some of the gym owners listening, because the 2K might be completely out there. Let's say 1,500 for the first 3 months of coaching.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's £500 a month. Usually it works off,
Yeah.
but they collect that up front. So it's important to relate that to relative costs in those individuals' lives. Where else are they spending £1,500? They wouldn't think twice about spending it on a bag, right? They wouldn't think twice about spending it on Botox, sunbeds, and everything else. All right, this is the very thing that's going to make them look good in a dress, make them look good with their bag. So it's important to normalize it and make it relative to things. So that's very important, first of all, from a mindset perspective. The second thing is to actually look at your business and go, on average, how long do we keep clients for in the back end? What do we charge for our back end? So we're only charging for that initial activation, right? When we get a client in, where it actually gives them a kick up the ass, where we build their plan, and the majority of the front loading, the onboarding, the teach you the form exercises and all this kind of stuff goes down. But essentially in the back end, it's about how long do we retain customers for on average? And that's about making the gym, the product, the service, the skills as good as possible. I mean, you cannot, like I said, you can only charge high ticket or high prices if you can 100% back up and you know that your thing is worth that money and you can relate it to other things that they spend of that value. So, making sure that the inside of that gym and the functioning of that gym and the setup, the layout, the workout sessions, every possible problem is anticipated, is planned for, making sure that the team are very clear on their culture, making sure that they've got the best skill sets. And even in some of the best gyms, there will be trainers there that, like personal development is an ongoing journey. That should never be stopped, right? And, if you are a gym owner that's been used to, working all the hours and starting to charge that and it's pulling you away, then, wait until you get the opportunity to bring in a senior member of staff that replaces you, that can then do the stuff that should be done. Go and get them to go and speak to somebody like yourselves and get them to make sure, or they come with pre-built experience of how to actually work with people, how to get results, look at their track record and build it around that. I don't know if that answers the question, but it's making sure the product is as good as possible before you start bringing people into it. But one of the big factors there is, well, what is our price point in relation to common things that these people would buy? Is $1,500 a lot of money for these people? I always use the example of flannels. I don't know if you guys have flannels,
Yeah, we do.
right? You go into flannels, who shops in it? People that can't afford the clothes, like they can't afford the clothes. It's working class people or drug dealers that are going in with bags of cash, well in Belfast anyway, going in with bags of cash, or working class, young girls, young boys buying Balenciaga shoes, right? At 700, 800 quid, right? They've got no skills. They're investing in symbols of wealth and status to make themselves feel good because they are insecure. What is more important than that is my health. What is more important than that is how I feel about myself, how I look up in my own body, and my actual performance, my energy levels, my strength, my cardiovascular fitness, my ability to actually survive an attack, my ability to go and hunt food or create or build. And it's about shifting perspectives, right? If you can go and put 700 quid into Balenciaga shoes, you sure as hell can put it into coaching. Those are my thoughts on it, So I think it's a matter of really having a stance for that, and it's about credit cards as well. I talk a lot about credit cards. People are scared to use a credit card to invest in themselves. They don't know how to use credit cards. They use credit cards to go and put holidays on, which could be canceled. Flights could be canceled. Flights could be delayed. They go and put a handbag from Harrods or Selfridges on a credit card, and the interest rate is like horrendous. They'll not go and put a course on a credit card. They'll not go and put their health and fitness on a credit card. Why? They don't know how to use a credit card. So if you're going to build proper sales processes, and you've got to, how are you wrong in educating somebody how to use a credit card to advance their health? What's going to put them at more risk? Buying a Prada bag, or actually losing 15 pounds, feeling better about yourself, and going for the job promotion that you want? So it's all about perspective, and it's about shaping. And real sales is about enabling people. It's enabling them to unlock a better future for themselves. You're not going to unlock a better future from yourself with a Prada bag.
Yeah, it's a great perspective. I think that the issue I see is the sorts of people going into a gym and not the people buying the Balenciaga trainers. It's not the same person in the in-person coaching world as it is online. Their interests are different. It's a different type of person. Both still need fitness, but it's a different person. I think by the time if you're selling, I think £500 a month split over 3 months, I think is more than doable for every gym owner. I mean, it's comparable to what we would charge. I mean, the lifetime value of some members of our gym is 7 years times £4,500 a year. So it's huge. It's just stretched out over a longer time horizon.
When I shared the Balenciaga thing, that was like a kind of
it's
broad example. Somebody could spend that on.
It's a good example, but I do think the people that go to a gym for small group personal training is very different to the people that buy online coaching. Yeah. I think they're very different people.
Curious point, why? What do you think's different?
Like I say, the people online are into the influencer that they're following, whether it's a fitness professional or otherwise. They're into that person's brand. They're into their life. They've invested a lot of time into that person.
Whereas I look at small group training more as a commodity functioning gym. I'm going to go to here to work out, and there's not a story connected to it.
That, and also I think that the type of person is slightly older. I don't think they're as savvy with social media. I don't think they have time to invest into following that fitness influence because they've got kids and a working life and a lot of other things to do. And there are obviously niches in the online space where people are training an older demographic, but for the most part, I think they're two different consumers. I also think that if you're to front load that sort of payment, the service needs to be really shit hot, and you're going to come up against issues with being able to manage 5-10 people a week coming into your front end offer. Because again, most gym owners don't have the resource for the on the floor coaching and staff development and leadership and administration and all those other things. So I think it's a really interesting and great way to be looking at sales, and I do think that's where the gym owner needs to improve their sophistication towards that level. But there are other things that will drop.
Do you think though that the volume of new clients will reduce, but the quality will improve? So for example, if I've lowered a bar to 250, 300 pounds for the intro versus 1,500, that is going to reduce the drag on the team and actually provide them the opportunity to spend more time with those clients?
100%. It just depends how big the gym is and how many members you try and get in. If you've got 3,500, 4,000 square feet and you can get to 300,
Obviously it can
members.
feel weird for a gym owner because they want volume and number of clients. But it was just it was purely
If you've got one person managing all people on a 6-week challenge, for example, and you're charging somewhere around £350, £400 for that challenge, and you're getting 40 people onto it, and you've got a conversion rate of 50, 60% into your monthly recurring, like that's where you need to try and get someone to. Again, I think that the version of that we're talking about around self-limiting beliefs and sales skills
definitely be integrated.
It definitely needs to be integrated, because then that 6-week challenge could cost £1,000. But the labour involved with running a gym compared to running an online business is vastly different.
Even if I was to pay that to a personal trainer, I'm sure you're aware of personal trainers that do these photo shoots and things like that.
So I think that there's a difference here, and again, this isn't my world, so I can't comment too much. But when you're selling a 12-week transformation or 16-week, or even if you get them for 6 months, Marchon, what we stand for, and the gym owners that we want to live with, is like how can we continually challenge that person that I can still train them in 10 years? Because if I can train them for 10 years, all of a sudden that scarcity of like, can I still be relevant at 40 years old as a gym owner? Or it's all out the window.
Yeah. Love that. Guys, there you have it. We've unpacked Ollie Marchon's brain. I really enjoyed that, Ollie.
Cheers, Phil.
Thank you very, very much.